Well, folks, thanks for tuning in again today. Top stories, we're looking at the news that matters and, of course, giving you the in-look and the insights behind the scene to maybe save you some hours of doom scrolling every day because you can get an overall capitulation here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comments, too. We're going to take a look at those in the days ahead and get the feedback that you've been giving me. I appreciate that. So, obviously, clearly at the top of the list today, the winter storms. Unbelievable. It sure is a pushback on anybody who still thinks we're suffering from global warming. And the other thing along with all the disruption and the risk and the danger of these incredible cold temperatures and storm, it's really showing the effect of the very little effect, minuscule effect that solar or wind power has right now just to keep people alive basically during these cold days. You're looking at about 41% of all power is coming from oil and gas, liquid natural gas. About 25% is coming from nuclear. And that is really quite dramatic when you think about it. And less than 5% is coming from solar and wind. And it shows how those fail miserably. And it shows the necessary pursuit of ongoing energy source supplies that are responsibly done and responsibly acquired through liquid natural gas, refined oil, and nuclear. Those will all be taking more center stage as we see the reality of what's happening. Also, a lot of power being taken and diverted from the AI centers that take so much of our power, and another need, therefore, to make sure we're developing power sources that are reliable and are going to help people and not result in death and destruction everywhere. Well, in Canada, the Parliament is moving back into session now, and we're seeing the Prime Minister Carney, who was making some pretty dramatic statements over there at what was happening in Davos, is now walking some of those back. He's now talking to his friends in the U.S. and saying, look, I didn't really mean necessarily all of what I was saying there. We still want to pursue the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico Free Trade Agreement. So very interesting seeing some modification there in his strong comments from Davos. Also showing up the questionable intelligence of pursuing even greater relationships with China, especially on the intelligence front. And we're talking about intelligence. China right now, we see going through, just coming out in the news the last day or two, President Xi has enacted a huge purge of the army because he's not happy. He says the army is nowhere near, the military capability is nowhere near where it should be. That's an ominous sign. So at a time when here we have China steeping up and getting more vigorous, wanting to pursue more military power, then you have Canada trying to cozy up. Not a good look. Something that needs to be taken into stride and given some healthy reconsideration for. Timing sometimes has not been great on the Prime Minister's part, just as back several months ago when it looked like back in the Middle East, when it looked like Hamas was just about done and defeated. The Prime Minister from Canada announced that he would recognize Hamas's desire to have a Palestinian state. Thankfully, the purge against Hamas continued. They've been largely crushed, though they continue to cause all kinds of problems for the Palestinian people. But again, showing bad timing on Canada's part there. So hopefully we'll learn from that lesson and press on in an intelligent way. Canadian markets are showing really not so much a retreat of investment. I'd call it rotating, more a rotation than a retreat. And an example of that, I'll take Rock Point Gas Storage, a company. They're going to go to an IPO. I am not recommending it here. This is I just report on the investment community. Don't get mad at me if you wind up investing in that IPO. But it shows you're talking about gas storage, so it's showing that the markets are saying they think people are going to be coming to their senses and realizing that to really continue the strength, the prosperity, and the health of Canada and the U.S. and Europe, we really have to wake up and make sure we've got fully developed and exporting our clean, refined natural gas products that will, shipping those to Europe, again, as we've said many times, will break the stranglehold that Putin has on Europe, Europeans having to buy Russian oil. It's crazy, but that's the way it is. And therefore, Europeans who want to defend Ukraine wind up supporting and funding the very machine that's killing Ukraine, being the Russians. Also on the India side, liquid natural gas and other refined oil products going to India greatly would reduce the giant effect they have on the emissions into the atmosphere. So once again, that's one of the reasons we see some of this investment on the Canada side is, as I said, rotating rather than retreating. Gold up now, breaking all-time high, the 5,000 an ounce mark. Silver also is way up there. And keep in mind, remember, we've talked about this, whenever there is uncertainty, and there's a lot of uncertainty caused by tariffs, you're going to get people retreating to gold, and that's been the case for thousands of years. Interesting that hasn't changed much. In Canada, you see Maple Leaf Foods, a giant food outlet, is reporting an increase in dividends. Now, I want you to watch the political reaction to that over the days ahead. You're going to see the socialist parties and, to a degree, the Liberal Party saying, well, if food companies are being able to increase the dividends, and this is to their shareholders, remember, they must be robbing people. In fact, it's mainly because of efficiencies gained in terms of administration of their businesses, efficiencies gained in terms of food production, not just in Canada, but in the U.S. So that industry working hard to gain efficiencies. Not that they haven't had some times in the past where there's been some unwarranted collaboration that has happened and was caught and found out. But you watch, the politicians are going to be attacking big grocery companies, big food companies for sure, and trying to put the blame there when in fact the greatest cost, the greatest reason groceries seem to be going up in prices because of inflation. Inflation is caused when governments increase spending borrowed money. That's you're going to see continuing. And in Canada, as we talked about yesterday, trying to deflect from that, the federal government has announced a rebate, a GST rebate of up to 50% on your groceries. So here we have that irony where governments themselves increase because of inflation, increase the cost of food and groceries, and then wind up increasing them even more by coming out with these subsidies. I sent out a warning, and I continue to do this, to Canadian officials who are talking about revamping the Nexus program. That's been a fantastic program for ease of travel back and forth across the Canadian-U.S. border. I was honored to be able to work on that program years ago. Listen, I'm saying to the Canadian officials, if you start messing with that and you start bringing in changes, there's going to be reaction on the U.S. side. It's going to make travel even more difficult back and forth. So please exercise caution on that. Make sure you're working with U.S. counterparts on that. In Canada, as I also predicted, a little bit on the entertainment front, though it's a law and order matter happening in the U.S., and this is Ryan Wedding, who, as we know, he continues to be almost romanticized in the media. They keep calling him former Olympian. Can we please keep in mind, former Olympian, the one event that he managed to squeak into being the snowboarding event, he came 24th in that event, 24th. He barely even made the cut. He's also alleged to be responsible for the murder of dozens of people and ordering the murders of many more. And of course, the drug trade being responsible for the destruction of the lives of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of young people. So I would say to the networks, especially in Canada, like CBC, the national network, always looking for Canadian heroes, trying to romanticize this guy. Please paint him as the way he is alleged to be and the damage that he has caused, and stop with this romanticizing one of the alleged worst drug killers and murderers, certainly ever in Canada or the U.S. Well, in Marineland down by Horseshoe Falls, they've been facing this dilemma because the facility itself, the Marineland facility, has been aging, and so there's 30 belugas there, beluga whales, and 4 dolphins. And because of groups like Animal Justice, which humiliate politicians to bring in rules about animals in captivity, rules that really should be looked at and questionable, because of the rules and because you're supposedly not allowed to export animals in captivity. The goal of Animal Justice and the laws that they promote is to see actually all animals moved out of captivity. That means you can't move them to another country, and because of that, the folks at the facility in Marineland said, well, then we're just going to have to kill the belugas and kill the dolphins. because the animal justice people say we're not allowed to move them across the border. It shows the insanity of these rules, which are sometimes built on what may be well-meaning environmental and animal groups, but in fact they're counterproductive. And so glad to see them backing off of, or glad to see the government realizing in Canada too often that we jump to, we've got an animal problem like we do with the ostrich problem, which we publicized a lot a few months ago. The answer just seems to be kill them off, and that's hardly a good answer. So glad to see some reconsideration there as they move, and maybe even reconsider this whole thing on a prohibition on any kind of animal and productivity. There's about, it's estimated, scientists estimate there's about 200,000, could be up to, some of the estimates are lower, but up to 200,000 belugas swimming around out there in the ocean. And talking about a handful being able to be in facilities where the public can see them. If it wasn't for the public, and I can remember growing up as a kid and seeing these fabulous animals and saying to myself, with these animals out in the ocean, they need to be protected. And if I hadn't seen them up close, and how these animals, by the way, they love being in so-called captivity. They love it. They love the feeding. They love the adoration. And so it's just time for, I think, to open up the discussion and back away from the extremes of some of the animal justice groups and talk about some of the benefits. And the other benefits having animals in so-called captivity, you can look at what life-preserving mechanisms when animals get disease, as they do in the open, in the ocean, how they can be preserved. Whole lot of reason to be looking at these rules and not just killing them all off or shipping them out of captivity. Well, Kanye West has just published in a major publication in the U.S. a giant apology, and he's apologizing for everything mean and nasty he's ever said. He's apologizing for his very significant anti-Semitism through the years. Kanye, remember, he officially changed his name a few years ago to Ye, and so he's talking about, he said the result of a lot of these crazy things he was saying was a car accident back in 2002 made him, first of all, it made him, polarized, bipolar, and then it's autism. Look, I'm not questioning that. We know car accidents and concussions can cause real problems. So good for him, at least admitting that his rants on anti-Semitism were absolutely wrong, and he's apologizing there. We appreciate that. Some people are saying, well, he's doing this because, in fact, he's got a new album coming out very soon called Bully, and he's hoping the new album's doing well. He also, remember, was going to announce, he announced at one time he's going to run for president in 2020 and in 2024. Could this also be a precursor to another presidential run? Look, I don't know, but I do believe in this. You take somebody at face value, if he's honestly saying that what he said was wrong, and all of his anti-Semitism and his other rants, then let's just leave it at that. In terms of being in good health and good shape, I often don't talk about other politicians that I know well, but in Canada, a parliamentarian by the name of Christy Duncan has just passed away at the age of 59. She was, even though she was a Liberal, amazing person, and she joined an all-party member of Parliament early morning workout group that we had put together. She was the first woman to join. She absolutely crushed us guys in just about everything, from just being able to be there early in the mornings to almost every form of activity that we took, and she passed away. She served her constituents with the same gusto that she went about her exercising regime. We're going to miss Christy, and I'll do another lap for her, motivated by her in my regimen this morning. Well, Fox, talking about women and powerful women, Fox just announced it's going to be doing quite a production about matriarchs, women in the Bible, biblical matriarchs, and pointing to the fact that in today's terminology, and actually even ancient terminology, it's only Judaism and Christianity and its biblical writings that really hold up the power of women and the ability of women to be to do great and mighty things, and pretty well every level. And so they're going to be running some very interesting biblical, biological feedback and history on famous women in the Bible. It's going to end, the finale will be at Easter time, of course, where Jesus raises up the thought, doesn't just raise up himself, but talks about his mother and other great women in the Bible. all interesting food for consideration. Folks, stay tuned and join in with us tomorrow, please. Thanks so much.